Saying that the Republican Party has a problem with race is as much of an understatement as saying Jeffrey Dahmer was an enthusiast of exotic cuisine. Or saying that John Wayne Gacy was an avid proponent of unique childcare practices. No. They're a racist party, steeped in racism, flagrant and unabashedly so. And they take every minute and moment they can to remind you of that fact. Here's the latest.
Donors to vote counters who produce results he does not like. He is now threatening to kill any immigrants he cannot expel and promising, quote, getting them out will be a bloody story.
Republican leaders have figured out what to do with the most reviled Supreme Court decision in our nation's history, establishing that Black Americans are not citizens of the United States and they are not given to any protections of the federal government, a case we refer to as Dred Scott decision. They're using it against Kamala Harris to argue that she doesn't have the right to run for the presidency. I was wondering, what is the precedent that Republicans will cling to? What is it that they like? Found it. It's the one about slavery and how slaves don't have rights, to argue without irony, apparently, that the first African-American woman, also from with parentage, also from Southeast Asia, should not be the president of the United States.
So allow me to be frank, people. The Republican Party is the new KKK dressed in suit and ties. And winning the election is no longer the goal. The goal is now just to normalize enough white grievance to take the thing by force. There's another news story. Maybe you haven't seen this one. In the past week, the Republican nominee for president, the Tangerine Tornado himself, has only been able to be found in the smallest cities and the most podunk towns. One of the reasons is because he can't go to the big towns because he owes them too much money. But there's another reason why. Check this out.
He's doing more interviews. He's doing more rallies. The problem he's got is that he's doing rallies in really small towns. Why are you not going to where the people are? Howell, Michigan, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. What do all these places have in common? They're all sundown towns. This is where Donald Trump is choosing to hold his rallies. You got a presidential candidate for the GOP doing a sundown town tour across the country, not looking for political gain. The term sundown towns dates back to the segregation era, referring to communities with a wholly white population where Black people were considered unsafe after nightfall. Black people were prevented from living in those communities through discriminatory policies or intimidation and violence.
For a guy who cares more about crowd sizes than he does about the size of his own daughter's tits, which is a lot. I mean, he cares about the size of his daughter's tits a lot.
Did President Trump really encourage his daughter Ivanka to get breast implants when she was a teenager?
You write that it was actually Donald Trump who suggested plastic surgery to his daughter for her modeling career.
Now, Donald, what does Tiffany have of yours and what does Tiffany have of Marla's?
Well, I think that she's got a lot of Marla. She's really a beautiful baby, and she's got Marla's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but time will tell.
It's a lot. So yeah, he's actively avoiding large crowds, reaching more people. Instead, reaching less people in sundown towns isn't what you'd call a winning strategy. Unless you're not trying to reach a lot of people, you're trying to reach the right people. And luckily for the Republican Party, those right people have been being cultivated by the likes of Lee Atwater since the mid-'70s. Don't take my word for it. Take his.
You start out in 1954 by saying never, never, never. By 1968, you can't say that hurts you, backfire. So you say stuff like force busing, states' rights, and all that stuff. And you're getting so abstract now. You're talking about cutting taxes. And all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things, and the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites. And that if it is getting that abstract and that coded, that we're doing away with the racial problem one way or the other.
Basically, when Nixon was discovered having committed Watergate, people thought the Republican Party was washed up. But a clever staffer on in Nixon's White House came up with an idea for how to get more new Republican voters to replace all the people that were turned off by the corruption that had just been exposed, and perhaps save the party. His name was Lee Atwater. And he said, I know where there's all kinds of disgruntled white people. All you got to do is appeal to them over their anger about the end of Jim Crow and about school desegregation and about the Civil Rights Act. And these are the words that you'll say to kind of trigger them. Then we call these the racist dog whistles. And you will send a message to them that they are welcome in the Republican Party. There was a massive change in voter registration from Democrat to Republican on the part of all these racists and lowlifes.
And that's why you go to sundown towns and you know for a fact your entire party has put in 60 years of work to ensure everyone in that town is guaranteed to be receptive to your message. You know, using racist dog whistles and economic policies that hurt both races, mind you. But the degenerate mouth breathers grown straight out of a petri dish at the Fox News 40-year laboratory are just happy to know that it hurts black people just a little bit more than themselves. And that, my friends, happens to be another reason why Donald Trump just so happens to be the perfect messenger for these people. Lee Atwater was hoping to get a loyal voting base to keep the Republican Party alive after Nixon publicly aired out his party's naked corruption. But the unforeseen consequences, my friends, the unforeseen consequences of that 60 years later is they've cultivated an entire population of always angry, mostly morons.
Now, it turns out Trump has an IQ of about 73. He barely functions as an adult. If it were not for the fact that his father gave him a lot of money, he wouldn't be able to function as an adult. But ordinary people cannot be as dumb as Trump and still function. But Trump came out onto the public stage and started talking boldly like he wanted to do things politically and help the people of America. And he speaks like a third grader, because that's what somebody with an IQ of 73 talks like, even if they're an adult. Linguists have analyzed his speech, and they've made it plain. He speaks English at a third grade level. This energized dumb people, because for the first time they could understand a presidential candidate. And they said things like, oh, he speaks his mind. He's the first guy that doesn't use a bunch of fancy words and confuse me. Now I finally understand what he's saying. And of course, what he was saying was a lot of things they wanted to hear. They were the racist dog whistles. And so you had a beautiful alliance from their perspective of racists and stupid people. The lower 12% of the IQ distribution corresponds perfectly to Trump's supporters. Now, these people are so intelligent that there's actually a federal statute that prohibits their induction into military service. They didn't want to have a repeat. Congress didn't want to have a repeat of the McNamara's morons incident from Vietnam.
Unfortunately for Republicans, those mouth-breathing Fox News science experiments are getting harder to find, especially in the numbers necessary to win elections, okay? In the information age, Republicans haven't won the popular vote for president in over 20 years. Yeah, that's a fact. So, when all the gerrymandering and repealing of the Voting Rights Act and the purging of voter rolls and changing of laws to equate to poll taxes for black people don't work, Trump is in the sundown towns, reverting to the last refuge of the incompetent, violence. He's not touring sundown towns to get out the vote so he can win. He's rallying enough troops so that he doesn't have to.
If Biden gets elected and there's no civil uprising, this country's screwed.
While selling weapons at a gun show in Fishersville, military veteran Paul Voska told us he's starting a militia in Augusta County, Virginia.
The militia, being on the right side of the community and the Constitution and established laws in this country, would present a force or an intimidation like, hey, listen, this ain't right.
Called on the militia, it would be where we need something now and we have to take care of it now, and then we'll clean up later type thing.
We call on the militia, it would be where we need something now and we have to take care of it now, and then we'll clean up later type thing.
The organization encourages sheriffs to defy federal laws they view as unconstitutional.
But what I would like to see the sheriffs unite and put the federal and state governments on notice that they will not tolerate or allow any more gun control aimed at law-abiding citizens.
Some sheriffs say they also rely on their own groups, called posses.
And it's basically the same people as it would be on a militia.
Oregon Sheriff Bob Songer says he has a posse of 150 members for his county of 20,000 people.
They do courtroom security for us because we don't have the manpower to put up in the courtrooms. And now courtroom security, most of them, not all of them, are armed, but there's several that are not armed.
But for Gallagher, armed posses do more harm than good.
150 people for 20,000. Like, where is this? Like, what, apocalyptic hellscape are we really in?
So, do I think Trump would like to win fair and square? Maybe. I kind of think he likes the chaos and all the horse shit. It's good for ratings. And we all know, like a 3-year-old child, he still has a hard time separating the TV show from the real life. After all, he was just playing president on TV for 4 years straight and never actually did the work. But the Republican Party, the smart ones, okay? The smart ones would love a free and fair election, an easy win, and everybody lets them rule in Jesus' name as God intended. But they have 20 years of examples that tell them that unless they cheat, they don't win. And even that cheating may not be enough. So they are willing and happy to unleash this tangerine tornado on the rest of us, one sundown town at a time. Period. On the other side, we also have these same examples of history right in front of our eyes. But somehow we still have these tap-dancing Negroes and brown-faced Uncle Ruckus buffoons that do everything they can to get into the big house and out of the field. And they act, and I only can believe it's an act. They act like they don't see what this party's all about, even after everything I just showed you. From the Dred Scott to the militias. They still can't admit it to themselves. Watch this.
This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Carl Baxter. And Mr. Carl Baxter is a die-hard MAGA supporter who also has his own organization, like Michaela, like the rest of the Black Trump supporters. They have their own thing that they're trying to jump off, and they're using MAGA and Donald Trump and being a Black Trump supporter to jump them off. It's a grift. But he is president of the Republican Club of North and East Fort Myers. He quickly became disenchanted with Americans for Prosperity. He was approached by the deputy director for this organization, and he claims that he was offered a bribe. He met this person at the Oasis restaurant in downtown Fort Myers, and he was offered $500 to provide dirt on Cape Coral's council member Patty Cummings. Furthermore, we're not really in support of Donald Trump this time around. We are working to try to get Donald Trump defeated in the primaries. Mr. Baxter was like, nah, whatever y'all got going on, I don't want nothing to do with it, because we are trying to primary Donald Trump out. Well, after that meeting went down, Mr. Baxter's money started looking funny. He wasn't getting properly credited for the hours that he was working when he was out canvassing, and his mileage reimbursement and all of that stuff. He brought the concerns up to the American for Prosperity grassroots engagement director, Roxanne Buckles. This article goes on to say that Buckles, who is white according to Baxter's lawsuit, quote, then proceeded to call him a slave and demanded that he confirm he is a slave. Quote, I know you are doing the work, and I can see the doors that you are hitting on my iPad on my side. At least you are working as a slave. sarcastically, but at least you are getting paid. Many slaves today do get paid. Many used to never get paid. Are you a slave? Question mark. End quote. Well, needless to say, Mr. Baxter was highly offended that the leopards ate his face, and he demanded to speak to Miss Buckles' immediate supervisor. Some calls took place, and he expressed that he was offended and he wasn't feeling what Miss Buckles had to say. And then not too long after that, another call took place, and Mr. Baxter was terminated.
Nope. Hell no. I will not allow the leopards to eat my face. Will you? And the most important thing to do, good and decent people of YouTube, is to spread the word so others can snap out of it. So they don't get their faces eaten. Doesn't matter what color you are. They're eating everybody right about now. The wall that they're trying to fight against is the rising structure of knowledge. This is the information age. That's why Lee Atwater's plan isn't working. That's why the fake electors didn't work. That's why they haven't won a single popular vote in 20 years. Let's do this. I need you to spread this knowledge. Share this video, this one right here that you're watching. Whatever little bit we've gained has been because of you, okay? You've spread that word, and I want you to continue to do it. You've told and retold whatever you may have learned from our little videos. Share this video. Copy and paste the link onto your social media, on your Facebook. Put it in the comment section. Respond to a troll with this link. Tell them to learn something. And honestly speaking, you share this, you share the knowledge, you become another brick in that wall. This is how we win. Not just my channel, of course, but share those things that you know to be true, that you find to be edifying, that you can learn from where you think someone else can. I implore you, copy this link. Copy and paste, put it in your social, share it. Let's grow this community together, guys. We can't have leopards eating everybody's face out here. The Republican Party is not playing around, and they don't care if they win or lose because they think they have just enough low IQ, petri dish, Fox science experiments to take it from us, and we won't let them. I'll see you on the next one.